Hey there, you music fans. You're listening to the Sharp Musicians Podcast. We're here today with my good friend, Joseph Suderman. How are you today, Joseph?
Man, I'm great. How are you?
I'm awesome. I slept in today.
Always nice.
Recharged. I did pretty good on my tests, so.
Nice.
Good to go. Did you work today?
No, I was off today as well. I did get a wake-up call from my boss on my day off. Wanted to know if he could use my numbers for a transaction. Like, whatever.
It happens.
It does. But it is what it is. You know, like you said, I got to sleep in some today before I got the call from my boss. And before our interview, you know, I got to catch up with my old bass player from my days in the band, so that was always nice. Always good to see him. So,
wow, that's cool, man.
Mm-hmm.
So I brought you here so I could interview you and just ask you a couple questions about your band, about playing guitar, because this dude is a marvelous and awesome guitar player. Like, I don't really have words for it because he's so talented, but it takes years of practice to get to that point. Which, that'll lead me to my first question. How long have you played guitar?
Well, you see, there's actually several answers to that question.
Several answers. Well, let's unpack it.
Well, you see, I got my first guitar when I was 7 years old. Mm-hmm. So if we go from there, 20 years, and all I could really do on it was just screw around and strum it. Right. You know, I had no idea what I was doing. I was just strumming, thinking I was making music, but, you know, dumb 7-year-old kid with ADD. But, you know, the thing is, it stuck with me. And as I grew older and started, believe it or not, I used to want to be a country singer when I was young. I used to listen to a lot of country music.
No way.
I kid you not, man. I remember I first got into country music through Hank Williams Jr.
Okay.
And the song was If Heaven Ain't a Lot Like Dixie. It's a kind of blasphemous song, but 7-year-old me was just into the melody of it.
Right.
You know, because it was a really catchy song. Mm-hmm. If heaven ain't a lot like Dixie, I don't want to go. Mm-hmm. And just, I mean, obviously, like I said, probably not the best lyrics, but it is what it is. And for years, I wanted to play country. And still didn't really know much about the guitar and whatnot. And but as I grew older, my taste changed. I kind of started to see that the country music that I was into, because I was really more into classic country, I was kind of starting to see that really wasn't the direction that country was going in anymore, and I did not like that direction.
Right.
Then I discovered AC/DC, and I've pretty much been a rock musician ever since. Around the time I was 12 years old, I discovered tablature and started learning guitar riffs that way. And in my mid-teens, I started learning the chords. Mm-hmm. And then in college, I started really filling in the cracks of the foundation that I never had from so many years of being self-taught. Mm-hmm. And I will say this, you know, studying guitar in college was really one of the best musical decisions I ever made, because it's where I finally got to that point that I'm at now. Was learning scales from the late, great Dr. Chambers and from Wally Tarkington, the current guitar teacher. And so I really started learning blues style playing and really applying that to my personal music playing. And your video that you shot of me earlier was just me improvising on an E minor blues.
Right.
And that's just kind of where I became. My lead guitar skills kind of came from learning how to play blues in college, and so that's really where that is. And then just kind of knowing my major and minor scales, and just being able to improvise off of that. So the easy answer is 20 years is how long I've been playing, but like I said, I started really kind of taking it more seriously, like really starting to learn to play at 12. Started learning to play seriously at 16, and then going a more professional way about it in my
college years.
In my early 20s, yes. Okay. So
Cool. That's good. Long time.
Yes.
Long time, and that's why you sound so good. From there, I'd also like to ask you about your previous band. So previously you were part of a band named Stained Glass Illusion.
That's correct.
How did your band form?
Well, I met this girl in college, and we dated for about 3 years. She was a music therapy major. Out of respect for her privacy, I'm going to omit her name from this interview.
That's good. That's fine.
I don't know if how we got together is appropriate for this interview.
That's fine.
It was basically, we got together over a night of drinking. And we were both musicians. We had similar taste in music, but not the exact same. I came from a more classic hard rock and metal background. She had an appreciation for rock music, but she was trained with Adele. She was really into Adele, Lana Del Rey, popular bands like that. However, we did have a mutual love for the band Audioslave. She had a great deal of love for Chris Cornell. I introduced her to a band called The Pretty Reckless. We listened to Pat Benatar together. We listened to a lot of female-led bands together because we had been talking about making music together for some time. We didn't know if it would actually be a band. We were just kind of thinking it would be kind of a Pat Benatar and Neil Giraldo thing. Was kind of the early stages of us making music together. Then my friend Joel, he was hanging out with a couple of musician friends of mine as well, and they were talking about starting a band because Joel used to write lyrics a lot, really deep lyrics. He was very much an advocate for suicide prevention, and he wanted to make music about that.
Right.
And so he started playing drums for us, and he called me and this woman saying, "Hey, we got a band going here. I think we could use you two." And I talked to her about it. We sat down, we spoke of it, and said, "Yeah, I think we can do this." And she had been a songwriter most of her life, and she had piles of lyrics that she had written and chords based and all that. And all we really had to do was just kind of build around that skeleton that she'd already had. So
that's kind of nice.
We were able to churn out songs left and right. There were some periods of time during the winter it was slow for us as far as shows went. Because people didn't really want to go to shows in the wintertime. No. They don't want to drive out, be in the cold and whatnot. So a couple of years we were together in this band during the wintertime, we would be writing a new song every week. The album only has 6 songs, but our repertoire was closer to 26. And, it was not a problem for us to play however long we needed to.
Yeah.
And some of them were songs that we never really got to finish because we were just, we would start on it, we would spend a whole practice working on it, then the next week a guy would be like, "Hey, I wrote this." Like, all right, cool. But from there, we started off with one guitarist who didn't work out because he had way too many other things going on and just could not commit to the band. And we were saying, "Hey, we got something special here, and we're going to see this through to the end. And we cannot have this. We cannot have you putting us on the back burner."
Yeah.
So he had to go. And I had known a guy from a previous band that I had tried to start, and I had worked with him. He and I worked together in Cap 2 at Walmart. So I invited him to join the band. He did help us play a show. He actually saved our lives because we had our first actual big show. We had parted ways with the guitarist, and it was 2 weeks out till that show. And this guy came in and he learned all but 2 or 3 covers, and came in and he played that show with us. he didn't end up working out either because he didn't really like the direction we were going in. He wanted to go in a much darker, much heavier direction than what we were going. So I will forever be thankful to this guy for helping us out with that show, because he really saved our bacon with that one. And so, which leads us to our bass player at the time. You know, he was an excellent guitar player too, and I felt terrible for asking him to play bass, but he was just such a fantastic bass player too that was where we went. So I spoke with my ex, and I said, you know, he's earned his stripes. I think it's time we upgraded him to the guitar and find a new bass player. And she agreed. So we had met the bass player at a talent show there where his band was playing, and I had jammed with him not too long before we auditioned him, and he stated, hey, if you guys ever need anything, even a bass player, I'd be happy to help you out. This guy's primarily a guitar player too. But I had remembered that, and it was almost like a God-given thing, as the guy left and we put Malcolm on guitar, and then I mentioned the guy to my ex who had seen him play as well. We both knew that this guy knew his stuff, and his personality really fit with us, so we brought him over and we auditioned him. And we wanted to make sure, because we had already gone through 2 guitarists that didn't work out, so we just gave these guys the spot. So we wanted to make sure that he was going to be the right fit. So we wrote down questions. We grilled this guy hard. We had him play, and he was just perfect. And so he became our bass player till the day the band split up. Joel was playing drums for us at the time, and he got a job in wind energy and started traveling and could no longer play the drums for us. And our bass player's brother played drums as well, and was a fantastic drummer, just one of the best that I've ever had the pleasure to work with. And so we brought him in for the basic. He was with us for about 6 months, I think, before the band came to an end. And he just, those 2 brothers took us to a level we never even thought was possible. And they helped write some of our best stuff. They really helped bring it all together, and we played several shows. We recorded our album. We were really, I feel like we really could have made it. You know, our material was really good. We had the work ethic, we had the dream, we had the drive, we had it all. And then my ex decided that she didn't want to be with me anymore. And she left me for the lead singer of another band that I had been in a band with previously and was my friend. We had actually, 2 weeks before she left me for this guy, we played a show with them. So, and she thought that we could still be able to work together in the band, but no. I thought that was going to be my wife, you know, and it just, and having ended in such a messy fashion like that, you know, and I tried, Wyatt, I tried so hard to keep it to where we could continue going. Like, we tried everything we could, and finally it was just like, look, I can't do this anymore. And so I left the band, and I guess they decided that without their lead guitarist, it just wasn't worth it to keep going. So the band split, and it really is a shame, but you know, I have so many great memories with those dudes. Like meeting my bass player outside and talking to him, you know, it was a nice soul boost for me, you know, getting to hang out with this great guy and great musician that I got to share the stage with so many times and sat down and wrote music with, you know, and just getting to reminisce about the good old days for a little bit. And we're talking about jamming again, him and I together pretty soon, and you know, maybe he and I can work together again in the future.
Make some new stuff.
Make some new stuff, go on a new adventure, and yeah.
This has been the Sharp Musicians Podcast. Thank you for tuning in. And to all you musicians out there, I'm trying to remember what I was saying. And to all you musicians out there, stay sharp. Or don't be flat. Stay sharp.